I just have a question. What do you think is at least one of the biggest missing keys in our culture today?
Man, that's a huge question. In light of our conversations and our relationship, I think the absence of healthy fathers.
Healthy fathers.
Yeah, could be one of the large missing pieces.
Yeah, I don't agree with this man a whole lot, but this man said one time that any fool can have a baby. It takes fathers to raise a child. And
yes,
I really like that, because you can produce a child, but that's not the same as fathering.
That's right.
A child. And I know you and I have talked before, but as an individual who's a little seasoned, I guess we'd call it. We don't call it old anymore. Mature. Yeah. I'm
getting some mature. One of my children actually asked me, they're like, "Daddy, what's all that white stuff?
What's all that white?"
It's you.
It's the byproduct of you. That's great. That's awesome. I love the idea, because I've done all of these, but mentoring, coaching, and fathering. What do you think are the differences?
Yeah, we asked this question before the podcast just to kind of start to think about it, and I think it's a good question. I think mentors, coaches, and fathers are all aimed towards potentially a similar outcome.
Sure.
They want, at least they should want, the best for the individual that they are pouring into.
Right.
However, coaching and mentoring, I think, can be seasonal.
Yeah.
But when you're a father, that's not seasonal.
That's really great. Mentors as a whole, they pour in. Here, I got something I want you to know, some idea, some concept, some behavior. The coach, in essence, he pulls out what's in you, gets the best out of you.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of times when mentors and coaches end up being like fathers to an individual.
Yeah.
And I think that transition is they finally get to the place where they take responsibility, that I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah.
I want the best for you, not just in this game or in this even season, as you mentioned. But you've got children. I have children. I'm all in.
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere.
You ain't got no choice.
I got no choice. And that's what I see is needed in our society more than anything is, you said healthy fathers. I think that's a really good statement.
Yeah.
Fathers who are willing to take responsibility. I've watched a whole generation just give up their responsibility because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard raising kids. I understand why some animals eat their young.
Yeah.
It's like, man, oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked a little bit about the difference between mothers and fathers, and I think mothers keep our kids alive.
That's right. Yeah. They do.
They're there. They're nurturing. Sometimes just like,
yeah.
So
yeah, raising children is a challenge.
Yes,
but it's a good challenge. And I know, it just causes you to question and reflect, or at least I think it should cause you to question and reflect, and try to figure out how you can best prepare them for the world.
Yeah.
I think one of the successes of my wife and I's marriage and having children will be watching our children leave. They need to be well equipped to take on the world.
Yeah. It's a little overwhelming. I remember when my first child was born, the thought of, it's no longer just Ginger and I.
Yeah.
She's able to take care of herself. I got this little thing that's totally dependent. I was scared out of my mind.
Yeah.
Thinking, I'm now responsible for someone else's well-being and what they're going to think about life and what they're going to think about God. And wow.
I remember a couple things. Whenever we had our first child, Joanna, the funny story is we I say we had this child. I was there, encouraging.
Yeah, sure.
For the most part. But, the doctor handed the baby to my wife, and, she said, don't shake her, don't drop her. And remember, sleep deprivation is a form of torture. You'll be okay.
You'll be okay.
Yeah. And then I remember loading, getting the car seat, you got they come at that time, they would check the car seat to make sure it was properly installed.
Sure.
And so get the car seat, get Joanna locked in this car, and we get in the car. And I remember thinking, like, it was harder to get a driver's license. Like, I had to do more to get a driver's license than they just let me take this child home from the hospital. Now looking back, funny. They don't want to keep them.
Oh my goodness. But I think one of the things I have seen, at least for the generation I'm in and just under, is we thought our kids would understand what we understood by osmosis. I think we forgot you have to be intentional.
Yeah.
About getting certain values into your kids. That just because you pray doesn't mean they're going to pray. They got to know why, and you got to invite them into that.
Yeah, yeah. We did it. We did a fun little exercise a while back. I was listening to a podcast, and the gentleman on the podcast was sharing about a journey that he had taken his family through.
Okay,
and so this gentleman, he had grown up in poverty.
Okay.
And one of the things, he never wanted his children to be entitled.
Yeah.
And so they actually lived in a very impoverished part of the community of the city they were in. And because he didn't want his children to be entitled.
Yeah.
So basically his children, they knew nothing about his wealth and his success. And so a couple of his friends, bless their heart, they came to him and said, look, I don't know if you realize this, but what you're doing is not going to work. Like, at some point, they're going to get what you have.
Yeah.
And they're not going to know how to manage it.
Oh.
And so he started this program, and I believe it was called the Legato Legacy.
Okay.
And it was basically just a way of identifying your core values as a family.
Yeah.
And then constructing essentially a path. We've talked a lot about like Ebenezer's and milestones.
Yes.
Constructing experiences for them to go through that reinforce those core values.
Very good. And initiations.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's there's pivotal ages in which you do these things. And so, my wife and I, we've kind of engaged in that, journey and identified core values. I'll have to show you after this. I don't know if I ever show you. I built a family crest.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I built the family crest, and it's got all the different pictures and components.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, our children have actually, they've noticed it on my phone, and they've started asking questions.
Oh, cool.
I was like, oh, well, Daddy, like, what's that? Like, what's that represent? And, we got like my wife got this wonderful like placard, says the Hines family.
Yeah.
And then with our core values.
That's beautiful.
Gratitude, humility, integrity, and freedom.
Oh my, that's awesome. Well, I think, again, just being intentional about knowing what makes us us.
That's right.
What makes us a Hines? What makes us an Armstrong? Because there's not necessarily right or wrong in that, but if you don't know who you are, you'll never be able to impart it. You got to know the target.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to talk about it with them.
You have to talk about it.
Our children are just now getting to the age where we can kind of start to have like meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
I was telling you about the new tent that we bought, and I took the boys camping like in the front yard, but
dangerous.
It was just to do it. Yeah, it was dangerous. But in that, that night, this was several nights ago. My middle child, my 7-year-old, he's like, Dad, tell us a story.
Tell us a story.
And it was the first time I can remember in their lives where I actually told them stories, like real stories of things that like me and their uncle have done. And, me and some of my friends have done.
Yeah.
And, at the end, Jesse was like, Daddy, was that real? It's like, yeah, it's real. So it's fun, but you have to talk to them about it.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
To engage them in conversation.
Absolutely. The thing about knowing who you are, kids from a very early age actually want to know who are we?
Yeah.
Who's my people? What are we like? I remember watching TV with Michael, and he turns to me, commercial came on, he said, Daddy, do we like that? It was a beautiful understanding for me to come to this place and realization that he's looking not only who he is, but who we are. Do we like that?
Yeah.
Because if you like that, then I like that, because that's who we are.
Yeah.
But you have to be intentional about it.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
I know one of the things that we have to look at is the difference between mothers and fathers, because both are absolutely necessary in this world. If you want to really create an issue, tell mothers that fathers are more important, or fathers tell them mothers are more important.
Yes.
Both entities know we're together in this, and they're necessary. I know we joked about wives keeping our children alive, but we handle children differently.
Yeah.
There's not a right or wrong in it, but it is different, and it's okay. It takes like both parties to make this child develop healthily.
Yes.
So what do you think, in essence? Because that's a whole new thing in and of itself. What do you think kind of separates us from how your wife would raise those children?
Oh man. Well, I think, in my wife and I's relationship and situation, she is, and I think, if we look broadly, right, there's always, there can be exceptions, but, women are more nurturing.
Yes.
Right. And so my wife is more nurturing. Like,
sure.
We make the joke a lot of times, like, she keeps them alive. Like, she makes sure that they're well fed and clean.
Yeah, there you go. They wash behind their ears and brush their teeth.
Yes. She makes sure that they're healthy
Amen.
and alive.
Yeah.
And I think from my perspective, there is an aspect of, like just a little healthy agitation with fathers. Like I try to encourage my children and push them a little bit.
Push them a little bit. That's right.
And also, my wife is, and this is especially true with my wife, she's very safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, she's not going to do a lot of the things that I do. Like, there's something inside of her that goes off, and she's like, I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that.
That I could get hurt, and
I have to be here for these kids.
That's right. And she has to be there for those kids. And I think with me, it's not that those red flags are not as strong.
Right. You actually push your kids to take risks.
Exactly.
Which is completely opposite.
Exactly. Yes. And there's so much to, we've done a lot of reading about like risky play and, children, they need to push that boundary. And so it's like a child climbing a gate.
Yeah.
My 5-year-old, he's not extremely ambidextrous at 5.
Right.
But like, he needs to climb the gate.
But he's a boy.
Over the fence. But he's a boy.
He's got to climb that gate.
And he needs to feel that fear. Like, he needs to get up the gate, look down, kind of feel scared.
And push through.
It.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
and you talk
right.
about like creating a correlation that transcends into other aspects of life.
Yeah.
It's that. Like, how many times do we experience fear in doing something?
Yeah.
And we have to push through that fear.
That's right.
And I think, whenever children don't get the opportunity to engage in risky play, man, we're handicapping them.
Absolutely.
For life.
And that's what I see is a generation who's afraid.
Yeah.
Because they've never been allowed. I mean, this is a whole nother thing we could talk about. We used to play with darts that were like that size, and we'd throw them at one another, We had BB gun fights. We drank from the water hose.
Probably with no safety glasses.
No safety glasses. I mean, that's what we did.
Yeah.
But, we rode in the back of trucks and all of these things that I get where people are coming from. But the sickest people on the planet are those who are afraid to get dirty.
That's right.
There's something about risk and pain and trying new things that has been lost. And we're afraid for our kids. And so what we raise is a bunch of scaredy kids who can't face anything.
Yeah. Well, people are just, they're controlled by their fear.
Yeah.
And for me, that even gets into our core value at home of freedom.
Yeah.
Like, if you're controlled by fear,
you
you are not free.
That's right. That's right.
And so, putting them in situations and putting myself in situations.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of talk around like the things that we like, camping and backpacking, and I've got a really cool trip planned that I have to tell you about.
Okay.
But like putting ourselves as adults in situations where we experience fear, and learning to push through it, and really separating ourselves or allowing ourselves to reflect on that moment and realize like, look, I'm kind of just an observer in this. Did it work or did it not work?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
That's
with the kids, like they just need to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I know that it's one of those things. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's doing the right thing in the presence of fear, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And your children need to see you do that as a father if you're going to expect them to do that.
Yeah.
And there have been times when I've just had to tell my family, I'm not excited about this. There's actually a little bit of anxiety as to how this is going to, but I want to press through that because on the other side of that is the joy of what courage brings.
That's right.
Inaction creates doubt and fear. Action creates courage. Hey, if you're enjoying this podcast, would you press like and share? Let's get back to the podcast and confidence.
Yeah.
So we have to do those things so that we can say to our kids, do you remember when Daddy jumped out of that plane?
Haven't done that yet.
I got a chance to do that. When you're 2.5 miles up in a plane and you're looking down at the earth and it looks like grandma's quilt, it is absolutely breathtaking. But you got to take that jump. And you're falling at 120 miles an hour. And then when you pull the chute, you're still falling at 80 miles an hour.
So when you hit the ground, like how fast are you going?
Well, now when you hit the ground, see, here's the thing. They've got cables that you pull. It changes the dynamics of that parachute, slows you way down to where you're doing like 20 miles an hour or something when you hit the ground. So it's still pretty fast. But you're stepping into it. You're kind of moving. It's a beautiful thing. But there's a sense of, what if this chute doesn't open? I mean, there's a possibility of all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a part of when I got through with that, it was like a great win. I'd wanted to do it since I was 15.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say who it was because he's my friend, but he tried everything he could to put fear in my heart. He said, we've never traveled this far before. I mean, he jumps all the time.
Yeah.
The plane's making a funny noise. And he just went on and on.
And he jumps all the time?
He jumps all the time. And I don't know why, but he was trying to, whatever. Anyway, he did not know how bad I've been wanting to do this. There's nothing that man could have said that was going to keep me from doing this. But I'm so glad I did. We don't have time, I guess, but women have a tendency to date the dangerous boys.
Oh, man.
Right? They want the guy that the father's nothing to do with the dangerous kid. But it's crazy to me because after they marry him, they immediately try to take that away. Get rid of the motorcycle. You got a family you got to take care of. No longer go out and hunt. Don't go to the mountains anymore. There's bears and tigers. But that's what I love about my wife more than anything is she allows me to be who I am. Yeah. She didn't want to jump out of that plane. Like you said, it's like, no, I got a family to raise.
I'm sure she didn't.
She did not.
I would be floored if she did.
No, she did not.
Yeah.
But her and Michael watched and just had a blast. They would have watched me all day do that.
Yeah.
She didn't want to do it, but she was willing to. I have to do this. This is a part of the journey for me.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful that, again, we need both parties for the kids to be healthy.
Yeah.
But fathering is so, so important. And I know one of the things I wanted to get to is fathering in this generation and fathering even for me, like in the ministry. Fathering is a deep aspect for me. And I actually learned more about fathering from my mistakes than I did my successes. And unfortunately, I wasn't as good at it as I wanted to be. But quite honestly, nobody told me what I needed to know. They just thought I would know what it is to father. Thought I would know. I have to impart these things into my children. And I learned on the cuff. I actually learned more after I got saved by watching parents who did it right.
Yeah.
By watching fathers who loved their children and engaged in their children and praised their wife at the table and honored, the differences even. So I learned more from my mistakes than I did my successes.
Yeah, I think, when I reflect on fathering in this generation, I don't know if it's just, and maybe I'll ask my elder. I don't know if it's the phase of life that I'm in, that it feels heavier or feels weightier, just because of the ages of my children and the phase of life I'm in, or if there's something unique about this generation. I think it's easy to think that our generation is unique, but I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, every generation has faced issues.
Yeah. Well, if we believe the scriptures, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yep.
When I look at history, it just repeats itself over and over again because we forget. Generations forget what the generations before have learned. It is a very, very deep need in our society for men to be men, not the wife beaters, not the things that most people see masculinity as.
That is not a man.
That is not a man. It's actually the opposite.
That's right. That is weak.
That is weak. That's exactly right. So I know that for me, I read a book by Jim Wilder the other day called Rare Leadership, and he's got several really good books. Joy Starts Here, different things. But one of the things he talked about is the different levels of maturity. He talked about the infant who can't take care of themselves, and there are grown adults who are still infants in their maturity level. Somebody still has to take care of them. And then you get to the child who's able to tie his own shoes, make his own breakfast. That's a really good place for all of us to get us to that child. Then there's the adult who's able to take care of themselves and someone else, one other individual basically. And then there's the parent who's able to take care of several. And then there's the elder who gets to the place where his kids are grown and gone, and now he's fathering and mothering the community. And I think one of the things I see that they call me Papa Lee here, or Father Lee, lovingly. It's a term of endearment. And I'm grateful for that. I'm actually speaking into a fourth generation just because I stayed the course, and I love what that looks like for me now. And quite honestly, it's the same as when I was fathering my children. I'm looking for, what do they need? As the mentor, what do I have to pour in? As the coach, I'm thinking, what do I need to pull out? I need to encourage you. That's in you. I see that. You may not see that. You may not, realize that, but I see this gift in you. I see this talent. I want to pull that out. I see a future for you that you might not see for yourself, but I want to help you get there. And that's been enjoyable for me because I've taken the time to read the books. I've taken the time to read the book, the Bible, and to realize I have to be intentional, more intentional, because the generations need it so desperately bad.
Yeah. That's one thing I really have felt the Lord impress upon me lately is just the need for higher levels of intentionality. Because it's easy for everybody at this stage of life. It seems that there's more of a propensity towards getting a lot of things done. And man, when you try and I'll admit, like, I like that.
Sure.
So I like getting things done. You're bent that way a little bit. I'm bent that way anyway. Like, right. I'm good at checklists.
Boxes are checked,
That's
man.
right. I'm good at it. But I feel like I miss out on just like the camping with the boys. So I wasn't going to do that because it just wasn't planned. It's like I just got this tent. It's barely on the truck. Boys, like, I don't like, just go to bed, like, try to go to sleep, go to bed. But for me in that moment, that's where it's like, look, it's spring break. Like, they don't have to go to school. My schedule's pretty clear the next day. So I can, and it was a bad night of sleep. But it's being intentional in that moment. So slowing down and realizing,
very good.
I'm listening to a book. I'm not ready to recommend it yet.
Okay.
I get in trouble because I listen to like a short portion of the book.
I recommend it, and then
the second half is horrible. I'm like, what did I just recommend somebody read? But in the book, they asked, I forget what the generation was, but it was essentially, did your parents care more about like achieving career objectives or connecting relationally with you as a child? And 80% of them said their parents cared more about their career.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I'm going to sleep on top of my truck.
There you go.
With my kids.
I think I could have told you as a grandfather that was coming. It's new. We have to try it out, and especially the boys. They have to. They got to do it. Chip and Dan Heath wrote a book called The Power of Moments.
Yeah, I've read it.
Incredible book. And we can create those moments, but we also have to be aware when those moments arrive. And that was a moment. That was a moment for those kids. Again, it was inconvenient, but most moments are.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the stories I told my kids was about a packing trip. We'd taken these guys hunting, and basically the main components were wood stove, mule, horse, and mountain. And my 5-year-old, basically retold the story to my wife all day.
Oh my goodness.
And when I got home, he was like, Daddy, can we go see that mule that's in the tree? So the stove's in the tree. The mule came home.
I love it.
It was hilarious. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I told him, and I was like, well, Timothy, like it would take like 3 days to get back to that tree. Yeah. And he's like, I got time.
I got time. That's exactly.
Like, of course you
Can we leave in the morning?
Of course you do. You little 5-year-old punk. You got time.
I love it. I love that. Well, but is that a real story?
It's a true story.
It's just hard for them sometimes to grasp because they see so much on TV that some of it's real and some of it's not. They have a hard time deciphering.
Yeah. Oh man, and that's a big passion point for me. I mean, I'll have to look it up after this podcast. There was a word in the book that I'm listening to that I'd never heard this word before.
Okay.
Started with an A. I'm not even going to try to say it.
Yeah.
But essentially what the point behind the word is like, it's like a loss of fire, like a loss of passion.
Okay.
And said most people at 35 are just barely a shadow of themselves
when they
where they were 28,
Yeah.
like 28 to 35. I was thinking about the children, to your point. Man, if we live our lives right, oh man, there should be so much more fire and excitement.
Yeah.
And they can't, the real world is far more exciting than television.
Oh, absolutely.
But people don't live real adventures. Like they don't take real adventures. They don't do real things. And that's when my kids ask me, hey, that really happened? Yeah, it really happened.
Yeah.
But, and even for me, I look back on that moment and, sometimes we put ourselves in situations where there's a higher possibility of things like that. And I shared with them a story about a moose. We ran into a moose on a trail.
Man.
I actually had it on videotape on my phone. So I showed them the video on the phone. But man, life is so exciting if we'll just live life.
Yeah. Well, we play too many games that you can just start over. Yeah. And there's no risk in it. You can just start over. If you mess up, no big deal. Real life doesn't lend itself to that. Yeah, you make too many mistakes like that, you're not going to live very long.
That's right. That's the risk.
That's the risk. But that's the beauty of it. I think, Derek, one of the things that I've put in my own life is I try to learn something new every week. Yeah. And if possible, every day. And I try something new all the time. And I fail miserably. The other day, I loved Bob Ross. I just loved his nature, his spirit. Yeah. He just was kind of a happy guy and I loved watching him paint. And so I decided I'm going to try to do his style of painting. So I got some paints and the family bought me some stuff for Christmas. And that thing looked like a 3-year-old when it was absolutely the pits. It was terrible. But I tried it.
Was it a happy little tree?
No, it wasn't a happy tree at all. It looked like it got burnt in a fire or something. It was really, really bad. But then I ran into an actual artist who tried to do the Bob Ross technique and also failed miserably. So there's a little bit of redemption in it. But what I have found about trying new things is that if you try enough new things, you realizing failing is a part of the price paid for succeeding.
That's right.
And it's okay to fail. Fail forward.
Yeah.
Learn and grow. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Let's think about Bob Ross. Like, I mean, someone that really found their niche.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I don't like painting per se, but he's fun to watch.
He's fun to watch. He does it with passion.
That's right. He does it with passion. But I feel like that's the resonance that we're missing a lot of times in our life.
Yeah.
is you see that, and he's fun to watch because he has passion around it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could make fun of the guy all day. He's quirky, but it's those little things.
The hairdo.
The hairdo. Oh my goodness. But you look at that and you look at all the different variables and you're like, there's no way this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like you're going to paint on television and talk about it.
That's right.
But I mean, the guy's an icon.
He is indeed.
It's
He's coming back.
Is he?
He's coming back. People got mugs and T-shirts. He's coming back.
Well, there was another guy. I don't know if you've ever seen. There's another guy like after Bob Ross.
Okay.
On the same station, kind of a younger guy. He's just not Bob Ross.
Yeah. Well, again, uniqueness of Bob Ross.
Yeah.
What's interesting, the backstory. I actually heard him talk about how he ended up where he was at. And he had a person speak into his life. Mm. They were doing portraits together. And this guy said to him, Bob, you love doing scenery. You love doing trees. Go do trees. Yeah. And that set him on the path to where he made happy trees. Yeah. So again, it's that fathering of somebody speaking into you saying, I see this in you. You can do portraits and you're okay. Yeah. But you love trees, you love bushes, you love the pond. Yeah,
that's funny. I had a similar. I've tried a lot of different things, and I was doing one thing in my life, and that was riding horses.
Okay,
and training horses. And I remember it was a bad time of life to try to start something like that. But I remember the guy I was riding with. He was like, Derek, you're overthinking it. Like, stop thinking so much. And I remember thinking exactly right. He said, I'm overthinking it. So now I'm thinking about me overthinking about it. I was like, I should probably just get a job where I think.
There you go.
But wow. It was that one thing. It's like,
awareness.
If I can't stop thinking,
maybe I need a job.
Should just stop thinking.
That's awesome. And the job you have now requires
a lot of thinking.
A lot of thinking. I love it. It's one of the things I love telling this generation is your strength is also your weakness. Mm-hmm. And if you're aware of that, you can go a long ways. I know for me, I love talking. I just love it. I've loved it since I can remember. But sometimes I should be listening. And I had to learn that my strength is my weakness. There are times I've learned the most and the best ideas came because I shut up and let other people talk. Yeah. I'm not a big Larry King fan, but Larry King said, I can learn nothing listening to myself today. If I'm going to learn something, it means I have to hear from someone else. And I just think that's really brilliant. You might be a rocket scientist, and it might take, if you could do 24/7, it might take you 3 weeks to tell me all you know. And I would grow a whole lot. You wouldn't grow one bit.
That's right.
So you have to hear from somebody else, which is the virtue of books and podcasts and conferences and real relationships.
Yeah. Well, I think the relationships is really the key there. We live in a generation where we have access to so much information. Yeah. But with where we're at with technology, it's all pulling us away from real relationships.
That's exactly right. We're exchanging a real laugh for an LOL, and they're not even close.
No. Just like laughing till it hurts.
Yes.
Like with friends is priceless. I can still remember the last time I laughed till it hurt.
Till it hurt.
And it was just, it was an incredible time.
Amen.
And I'm not, I've never, I've laughed by, looking at Instagram or Facebook.
Sure.
Things are funny.
Yeah.
But it's very surface level. Yeah.
When the scripture says, laughter doeth good like a medicine, there's a real truth to that. Yeah. Nobody walks away from an encounter like that and says, oh God, I hope I never do that again.
Yeah, I almost can't stop laughing thinking about it.
It brings you back.
Yeah.
And the truth is, there's neuroscience proves that just thinking about it again brings back some of the same feelings and some of the, that's the beauty of it. And God's smart about those kind of things. So I have a question for you. You've had fathers, obviously a father, natural father, and then you've had spiritual fathers.
Yep.
What made those spiritual fathers to you and not just a mentor or not just a coach? What made them, in your mind, fathers?
Haven't thought a lot about that.
Yeah.
My mind initially goes to more of the mentors that I have had as opposed to the fathers. So I've got a relational strength.
Okay.
And I can remember, I remember a lot about when there's rift in relationships. Like those are milestones in my life when there's ever a rift in a relationship. So I can remember mentors that I've had that I don't have anymore. And I really feel like it goes back to our previous thing is fathers are always there.
Yeah.
Like they're always available. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Okay. It does come down to, again, being intentional about I'm here for you no matter what, good, bad, or ugly. And I think, again, we need people who will help us through difficult times, obviously, but we also need people who rejoice with us when something works well, when we get that promotion or we have that third child or whatever, they're actually happy for us and they're pulling us along. I know I'm reading more and more about how if you're going to actually mature, you need people younger than you that you're helping, and you need people older than you who are bringing you up. And I think what I see missing is not just fathers, but grandfathers.
Oh, yes.
People who've been there and done that. And I love being a grandparent because being a parent is scary. And everything's just this major ordeal. Oh my God, we got to fix this. When you get to be a grandparent, you go, that's just a phase. Let it go.
Yeah.
Take pictures. You can, bribe them later.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point. And I mean, I don't know exactly if we can pinpoint what is to blame, but the absence of elders in our churches and our communities. And I really think, it's frustrating to me because, we've got so many different sects of Christianity that's almost like we have old people churches, family churches, and then young people churches.
Yeah.
And that really bothers me.
Yeah.
You're right. We cannot properly mature unless we have elders in our lives.
Yeah.
And I really think there's something, like you said, about the elder fathers or leads the community, pours into the community.
Yeah.
And there's just so much to be said about that. So I think from my generation's perspective, we can just encourage the elders, like acknowledge, hey, we need you in our lives.
Yeah.
And then the people of your generation, they've got to engage. Like there's got, I don't know what happened culturally to make the elder think that they weren't of any use anymore.
Right. But there's a lot of elders who feel like they're unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's something I don't necessarily think, full retirement is ever healthy, but it's almost like you're okay, well, you've worked hard, you go enjoy the rest of your life. It's almost like a put out the pasture.
That's exactly right. It may even came across in their hearts as a respect. Okay, you've earned your stripes. You've earned your opportunity to go chill in life.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're called to. I think you're on to something there that's really important. And I would love to speak to both generations to say the elders need to pursue the younger generation.
Yes.
Hey, let me help you. Let me encourage you. Let me pull out of you. Let me pour into you. Let me be here for you.
Yeah.
But the younger generation needs to seek elders' input. It has to go both ways. I know I've made it a habit to encourage people, hey, if you'd like, I would love for you to come. Let me see if I can pour into you. And I can't tell you how many people I've presented that to who never took me up on it.
Yeah.
And that's on them. I don't try to run those people down. But those people who've been willing to let me speak into them are growing and maturing, and they have somebody to bounce things off of. I know as a young adult, I would have given anything for someone to say, hey, you don't know where you're going or what you're doing, but I've been there, done that. Let me help you walk this out because you're going to be here, you're going to be there, there's going to be I didn't have any of that. So I made a lot of really stupid mistakes that somebody could have helped me avoid if they'd have just been willing to pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. And who knows? I mean, you may have still made those stupid mistakes.
I but I'd had somebody to pick me up when I bang my nose. You know,
listen, buddy, I told you.
That's exactly right.
Yep. Yeah, I think we need, for us to have healthy communities, we cannot have healthy communities in the absence of elders.
Yes.
We have to have the elders.
Yep. Well, again, I don't know all the reasons why we've kind of separated. That there was a time when the elders ran the community, and everybody knew that.
Yeah,
they were elders, and everybody looked to them. And then I don't know. We got to a place where, I'm smarter than that. I got all this, whatever. I'm all that in a box of grapes. Get out of my way.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just know that what I'm seeing is God's creating this the scriptural thing again. He's turning his hearts back to the children and the children back to the fathers. I see that happening, and I know what happens in a lot of young men's hearts is they've been convinced by the enemy and by others they don't have what it takes, and yet they do. They absolutely do. They just need somebody to tell them they do, and somebody to help them get there.
Yeah. You know, we recently had a camping trip last year, and there was a gentleman on the camping trip, and we had a rough day. Like we did 32 miles in one day. We stopped at like 2:15, 2:18 in the morning. But like he was done at at lunch.
Yeah.
And it, at the end of the day, he finished.
Yeah.
And he did well.
Yeah.
And he had so much more in him than he even thought.
Absolutely.
And as we were coming out, even reflecting with him and having a good conversation, like that's why we go on those trips. Is so typically people get breakthrough when they're
when they're pushed.
Yeah, when they're pushed. But it takes community for that to happen. Like you can't just think like, I
take this pill and you'll get there.
Yeah. So you need people to draw that out of you and encourage you. And
amen. Is that the same trip with the cougar?
Yeah.
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 Again,
I'm assuming you might have talked about it on the previous podcast.
No, but again, I've heard the story, and it's like we pushed through, we pressed. There's real risk.
Yeah,
but we got to get there.
Yeah,
I know you're tired. Keep going.
Yeah, I remember thinking, because when we saw the cougar, I mean, the energy level picked up substantially.
Yeah,
and I remember the first thought, this might be a horrible thought, but the first thought that came to my mind was like, we're going to make it now. Like we don't
have any choice.
Yeah, we got the energy to get down the mountain now.
I love it. That's so good. Well, I know we need to be closing down. I'm going to give you a chance to think about maybe some last thoughts. I'm just going to share. I love Richard Rohr's 5 things that are necessary for boys to become men. And I find that this is what I'm having to do even in the ministry is I'm looking for the missing pieces in the people I'm trying to help. And those things were, you're not that important. You're important, but you're not that important.
Yeah.
I've got a generation that thinks they're all that and then some, and it's like, whoa, wait.
Yeah.
You're gifted, but you still have some shortcomings. He talked about your life is not all about you.
Yeah.
When you grow up, you start pouring in to others.
Yes.
You were going to say something.
Well, obviously that's a very specific milestone, I think, in our maturing process.
Yeah. He said, life is hard. Mm-hmm. And I've been hearing this thing. I don't know who came up with it first, but it's really brilliant. Single is hard. Marriage is hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah.
Marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Life is hard. And there's a generation that's been told you can have a life of ease. It's not out there. We live in a fallen world.
Yeah.
Life of ease is not out there.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, it's just shallow. It's shallow.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the more, yeah, I mean, if anyone that wants to live any sort of life of meaning or purpose is going to have to do hard things.
There's the thing, purpose.
Yeah.
You could find a life of ease, but you'll go to your grave never having any sense of meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose. God has brought us here to actually serve others, to help others. for our gifts to benefit others. And that's that thing. Life isn't all about you. When you start growing up, you start realizing I need to help others. I need to do what's been done for me. I need to offer what's been in me to others. So he also said, you're not in control. Well, man, our world right now is trying to tell everybody, grasp the day, take control. What do you have control of?
Carpe the diem.
Yeah. So what do you have? You don't have control of anything. You just do not. One phone call, change your whole day.
Yeah.
Change your whole life.
Yep.
I mean, if we had to learn anything from COVID, it's like you are not in control. And so you have to help people understand that you don't get to control everything. And the one thing we are allowed to control, we don't want to take control of, and that's ourselves. I'm responsible for me.
Yes. Yeah. We just got through, we're doing a leadership group here at the church, and we just got through with our first retreat.
Okay.
And the pre-reading for that first retreat was Viktor Frankl's
Man's
Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And the one thing we can control is our reaction.
It's our reaction, our attitude in the thing. That's exactly right.
Outside of that.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's about it.
That's about it. And we have a hard enough time controlling that, don't we? And I think the last thing you said was, you're going to die.
Yeah, that's right.
I honestly, because I've done so many funerals and helped so many families through, I think that until you recognize your mortality, until you come to grips with your life has an expiration date, you can't truly live.
No.
You know how many times do we see somebody who's been told by the doctor, you got 2 years, and suddenly life has meaning? I don't think we have to wait for that phone call. No, I think we can choose. We shouldn't. That's for sure. I think we can choose by realizing our time is limited. We are going to die. So make the best, because every day is a gift. Live it to its fullest.
Yeah.
If I could say one more thing, and I'm going to let you share the last thing on your heart. I am helping to train a generation. Leave your phone in the car when we go to lunch. Because if I wanted those other people involved in this lunch, I would have invited them.
This was a prop specifically for that example, by the way.
So when I look at they don't know how to engage, fully engage in a moment, because they think they're going to live forever. Yeah, I've realized my time is getting shorter and shorter, and I didn't wait till I got the phone call to realize that. To enjoy every day, to tell my friends and my family I love them while I still can, to take a risk while I still can. Because one of the things people regret when they're at the last stages of their life is they didn't take enough risks. Yeah. So these things that Richard Rohr was saying that help men or boys become men, I think that's what I'm looking at a generation that they don't understand these things. They've been told the exact opposite. You're going to live forever. You're in control. All lies. Yeah. And none of it works out. And it ends up, they live a life that has no meaning and purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to realize that, I mean, we're so fragile.
Yes.
And life is short.
Yeah.
So, take advantage of the moment.
Amen. And if you can't take advantage of the moment, create the moments. Yeah. So that you can grow and learn. All right, Derek, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all.